Welcome to the Near Memo, a weekly conversation about search, social, and commerce. What happened, why it matters, and the implications for local. Hello, and welcome back to the Near Memo. Today we have special guest Andrew Shotland, one of the local search OGs. And as always, Mike Blumenthal is here, and me, Greg Sterling, as we talk about all things local in search, social, and commerce. David Mim is on vacation. He'll be back maybe next week, maybe not. We don't know how long his vacation is. I think it's to the 8th, but we'll see. And today we've got an exciting discussion about renting versus owning, AI tools and automation, and how will ChatGPT and related content creation tools impact the review landscape. So, Mike, I want to start with you. And you were struck by Miriam Ellis's article about local and renting versus owning. What was that about?
So it was also brought home by a tweet by Aaron Wakey, in which he went to some website, interacted with their chat, and then they took his email, which was annoying. But then instead of interacting with him after they emailed him, they just kept trying to get him to do a demo when all he had was a question. And Miriam did an excellent piece at Moz, I guess it was last week, just about how business owners feel this loss of control over parts of the customer journey because Google has so much power. Reviews can be so devastating. Google doesn't do a good job of taking down fake ones, etc. But what she pointed out from the research they did, which is that even though Google is a primary part of your funnel, 91% of your potential customers actually then move from Google, maybe on Google, to interact directly with you. Either it's with a phone call, visit your website, driving directions, visit the website. So all of these things, shortly after the review process is completed in the customer journey, that you are then in control. And what's important in those situations, which is pointed out in this article in the Harvard Business Review called Stop Trying to Delight Your Customers, is that these processes need to work. If you have a form on your website and you haven't checked it lately and it goes into the ozone, or if you have a chat on your website, like with Aaron's case, it goes to email, these are not really functional communication. And all that sort of pre-sale stuff has to really work. You don't care if you get a latte with a haircut. What you care is if you can easily get an appointment, easily change it when you need to. Same with an airplane. I mean, the epitome of bad service. And so she just points out that the bulk of that is in your control, that you do own all of those processes. And despite the loss of appearance of control, that you really do have that journey process. And you have to be sure that whatever you put in front of the customer really works, that you answer your phone calls, get back to them when they need you, etc. And a good example to the contrary is the airline industry.
So we should point out, Mike, that you're in a bar, right?
I am I'm actually in a coffee shop in the Laurel Highlands.
Well, we don't know. That was kind of a joke because it's the morning. It's like 8:30 when we're recording this, or 11:30 for you. I guess it's less of the morning. But we have no idea when people listen to these things, so it might not sound as much of a joke
as measure of proof here, Greg.
Yeah, all right.
I am a straight and narrow kind of guy.
That's an Irish coffee, Mike.
Yeah, exactly. So is the idea that sort of implied in all this that business owners have implemented all these tools and they're not really attending to them or not really thinking about the customer experience? They're neglecting the customer experience. It's sort of hoping that the tools are going to do the work for them.
I think that Miriam's piece sort of tries to deal with the frustration of having to deal with Google for most small businesses, and empowering the business owner to make sure that because most of the interactions they do control, she doesn't really speak to these larger companies. I mean, I think they all fail, as you've pointed out so many times. They talk about delighting customers, but then they don't do the basic stuff like reduce the need for repeat calls by anticipating and dealing with irritated related downstream issues. It's like you need to set up a process that makes it smooth and easy, and businesses control that. They own that. So, and they shouldn't forget that they own it. So it doesn't matter whether you're small or big. I mean, Miriam's point is you own the processes, make sure they work. And chat's a really great example of one that typically works poorly. May work better with AI at some point, but for the most part, unless it's fully staffed. And even when it is, it's one of these very frustrating experiences for most customers. So even though it to large companies seems like it reduces support costs, all it does is aggravate the end users.
Well, I mean, in a small business context, I think that the business owner, but whatever the service or product that they're delivering is, there's all this sort of peripheral lead up to and follow up after that. But I think they have a lot of control over the quality of that experience. And if they just adhere to common sense principles and they act with integrity, a lot of the other things will take care of themselves.
Not if they don't do things like check whether their forms are working or
well, right.
put in
I mean,
place
they have to
chat that they can't staff adequately, right?
Well, so I think if I may butt in, I think
yes,
the biggest innovation here, and the thing I'm always amazed that more, especially large businesses, don't do is like, hey, we'll call you back. Give us your number. We'll call you back when we're ready, right? Like I think everyone gets that, and it's like I don't want to sit on hold and wait for the chatbot to go talk to their manager and figure things out for 10 minutes. Just call me back when you're ready you have time and can handle me. And I think that's
a lot of companies do that. A lot of companies do that.
Right, but a lot don't. Right,
yeah, many still don't.
And texting as opposed to chatting. I mean, I think Aaron Weike's onto something that, at least for many small businesses, it's a much more immediate thing. The business owner can have it in his pocket, or the staff can have it in their pockets. And the customer can leave the computer. They don't have to sit there waiting for a chatbot to finally pass this off to a human. I mean, I had this terrible experience with Verizon a couple of weeks ago. And it just started out as a chatbot, went to a service person. Then they wanted me to call back Monday to cancel something. And it's like, oh my God, this is just.
Well, big companies, multi-location companies are trying to push costs out of the system. And so they're using technology to minimize exposure to humans in many cases. And all these technologies make all these promises about efficiency, about customer satisfaction. And in 8 out of 10 cases, they don't really deliver against those, and they create frustration, which is not the outcome that the brand wants. I wrote yesterday in our newsletter that I think that AI has the opportunity to improve those chat experiences. The first line chat is just an FAQ, kind of IVR rendered in text. If this, then that, or whatever. And you really don't get any information from those unless it's very rudimentary. AI has the potential to improve that process for a wide range of questions. But I agree that, small businesses tend to do a better job. Not always. Small businesses don't follow through a lot of the time, but they tend to do a better job with service than bigger brands for the most part. Mike, did you want to say any more before we go on?
No, just I thought Miriam did a great job with her article.
Greg, I have to ask before we move on. Was that chime I heard a Roam calendar reminder?
I do not have Roam, and it was not on my end. It must have been someone making a toast in the background for Mike's. No, I'm not on Roam. Are you using that?
Yeah, actually, I've been using it since an alpha. We really like it. But the calendar reminder chime is way too loud.
No, I'm not using it. I think the timing on that is less desirable. I mean, maybe it's an interesting product. I got a quick demo of it. The timing on it, if they'd introduced it like a year earlier, would have hit the market exactly at the right time. But we're not talking about Roam. This is I don't want to digress. I don't want to digress.
Thanks for joining David, Mike, and Greg. To stay on top of the latest developments in local, subscribe to our newsletter at nearmedia.co. We'll see you next week.